Van Walt is a bespoke team of individuals in 5 offices across 3 continents who design, source, install, supply, rent and repair equipment for environmental research. For more than 40 years, we have developed our expertise and experience to bring you best-in-class equipment for soil water and groundwater monitoring and research. Listening to your needs, using our experience and expertise to offer solutions that help you meet your objectives each and every time. Developing the equipment you need to protect the world's resources for future generations. Van Walt, monitoring your needs. Greetings, welcome to, what are we at, episode 3 of Van Walt, the Environment Monitors. This time we're talking about measure the moisture. Yep, it's about soil moisture that we're looking at today. And it's one of those areas, I'm sort of like get involved in all areas of the data side of things. My name is Chris Dawes, by the way, I forgot to say that part. And this is something that was new to me. I thought that it was all, and it is all linked, but I really feel that we need to take soil moisture separately. It's really, really important. And it's an area here at Van Walt that we are able to assist significantly with. And I want to have a look at what it is, how we're able to help, why it's so important to monitor it, as we say, with the environment monitors. But the good news is, and I know you'll be delighted about this, I'm not the expert on this. Phew, it's not me. We have a man who is, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce. I've got to make sure I say his name. I know him well enough, but I always worry that I'm going to get his name wrong. It's Stefan Ullmeyer. Let me bring him in, add to the stream. Hello, mate. Did I get that right?
Morning, Chris. That was absolutely perfect for a Brit, so you made it really well. Thank you very much.
And as you can hear, that's a very German twang that we got there, but he's over here. He's with us. He's ours. We've nabbed him. He's all ours. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, you got me. Yeah, I'm really good. It's Friday, so the weekend is near. I'm really happy about that. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. And I'm really excited about this, which is a phrase I never thought I would say about things like soil and what have you. But you know that I've fallen for this. Absolutely. It's amazing and intricate. The conversations that you and I have had over the last 6 months, you're able to bring it to light. We're going to tap into you a lot over these episodes, I can tell you now, because the stories that we get involved in is just incredible. But before we focus on soil moisture, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I say soil moisture expert amongst many other things, but go prior to Van Walt.
Well, prior to Van Walt, I started quite young as an electrician and educated myself, went to university, and now I'm an electrical engineer. I'm really happy about that because that gives me a huge advantage in what I'm doing now when it comes to our telemetry system, when it comes to all sorts of stuff. I worked all over the world. If it was at home, America, Germany, as you can hear, at my slang, worked all over the world, built huge wind parks, production lines for car manufacturers. So I had my hands on all sorts of stuff. And now I'm in the garden of Great Britain and work for Van Walt Limited, which is great. I'm really delighted to be here and to be in your podcast.
No, and thank you for coming on, my friend. It's brilliant. But what's always struck me as well, your passion for everything that we do in terms of being able to investigate, monitor, report on environmental impacts. It's not forced. That's a natural passion that you have.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a passion for the technical side of things,
Yeah.
But for the environmental side of things as well, we have one planet, and we should try to protect it. I don't want to say that I do everything what I can to protect our planet, but everybody has to bring his part to the table. And if it's only to be passionate about what you do to protect our environment. Look outside; it's wonderful, and we all want it like that for the next hundred or thousands of years. So that's it.
I agree wholeheartedly, and it really is cool, and that's what is great, is that you're able to have those conversations with. If I say our customers is the broad one, but it could be consultants, it could be environment agency, it could be the water companies, it could be construction companies, anything and everything, and you love sitting down with a pen and paper, speaking to them, finding out, right, what's the issue, what's the objectives, right, let's have a look, how can we do this?
Well, our slogan is monitoring your needs, and to figure out the needs of the customer, you have to talk. You make most likely a site visit, and you try to learn about the situation. And to sit down with the customer is, from my perspective, the most important thing to figure out what's going on. And most likely a conversation develops. You meet people all over the world, and when the conversation develops, you have a proper insight in what's going on. You know the customer a bit better, and you know exactly what they need. Monitoring your needs, tweak it down to exactly what they need, and you're the best friend.
And it's multiple pieces of the jigsaw which we shall move on, that you're able to be involved. Plus, we've got strategic members of the team, that we all work together. And at the end of the day, if you go to vanwalt.com, we've got the online shop so that people can just buy products if that's all they want to do. But where you and I really enjoy ourselves is getting the grey matter going, getting thinking, working with the client, going, okay, this is what you need to do. This is the challenges you've got on that site. Have you considered that we could also add this, and it'll give you those? And we just love really project managing and thinking outside the box. And then sort of going, okay, based on that, this is what we recommend should be the situation.
A customized and bespoke solution. Everybody can do the easy project, but when it comes to the complicated stuff, we can do that for you.
So, especially when you're the one that can get out the tools and the soldering iron and everything else as well.
I love that. Well, most likely I sit behind my desk, but I still love it to get my hands a bit dirty, and being out in the field, drilling some wells, put some well pipes in. It's lovely. It's a really nice mix out of everything. So that's why I appreciate my job that much.
No, I agree. And before we move on to the soil moisture part, just give us a quick insight of the other areas where we can sort of like bolt on the expert tag to you as well.
So soil moisture is, I would say, one of the biggest topics from what I do at Vanwalt Limited. But we talk about soil pH and redox as well. We talk about all sorts of soil solutions. When it comes to soil sampling, Iki, that is more her department. But we talk about soil moisture, soil redox, pH, all sorts of soil scientists, soil scientific. Thank you. I don't know. Recently, we got a new device from one of our suppliers, which I'm really keen to show you after our podcast.
Okay.
That's another thing. It's about the tension which holds the water back in the soil. It's a tension mark. You will love it. Trust me. It's a lovely device. Absolutely fantastic.
And people, my friends worry about me when we say that we'll love it and find it exciting. But as soon as you start immersing yourself in it, for want of a better word, it just genuinely is, especially when we know it's for our environment. I'm hooked, absolutely hooked on it. Now, in terms of soil moisture itself, I got a definition. Soil moisture is the water stored in the soil and is affected by precipitation, rain, temperature, soil characteristics, and more. These same factors help determine the type of biome present and the suitability of land for growing crops. That sums it up. Is there a simpler way?
Well, that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah.
That fits that on. So
Yeah. You
so,
could tell I was reading that one, though, Stefan. To be fair.
Yeah, that's all right. Sounds a bit stiff, but well, that was dead on.
And the key thing I know that we've touched on is that groundwater is groundwater levels is on vogue because everybody's like got to report on it and everything like that. But the soil moisture is the part that can be overlooked. And where I think this is summed up the most is that I think I even said it to you when I first joined the company and you were taking me through soil moisture, as I said, surely it rains so much here that we don't need to worry about soil moisture. But that isn't the moisture, that's the groundwater levels, potentially even flooding.
You're right. When people think about the UK, the people think about umbrellas, rain, and wellies, which is sort of correct. But it's not. Most likely, it's not the good kind of rain. Well, that's a thought which I have on my mind. When it rains, so at least in the last 10, 15 years, when it rains heavily over a long period. And we have too much rain. The soil can't cope with it. The soil is fully saturated. I don't want to say all over the place, but you have areas where the soil is fully saturated. It can't handle the rain, can't handle the mass of water anymore. And the direct opposite of it is dry summers. So with less rain over a too long period, and that dries out soil, damaged crops. So you have two extremes in one country and all over the world. But the UK, well, we live in the UK. We can see that live. We can experience that live. And yes, it rains quite a lot, but that is not a good thing. Not necessarily.
No. And this is a key thing, actually, just picking up on what we're saying there, is that, we're sort of, you and I are talking about the UK because it's an easy target, because we know that it's like, oh, typical British weather and all of that. But of course, we have offices in Ireland, this, same sort of concept weather-wise as us, Spain, South Africa, New Zealand, all with their own challenges to one extreme or the other.
Absolutely.
And the soil moisture is something that, as I understand it, it's got to be constantly monitored as well. In reality, it's not a snapshot.
No, it's not a snapshot. Well, if it's soil moisture, if it's let's say meteorological monitoring is one of the most important things, at least for me, because you can see a trend, and the trend shows, well, another extreme, and that is climate change.
Yes.
So we all have to deal with it. A lot of people still don't want to believe it, but you can see it right out there that the climate change knocks on our door, and that since a couple of years or a decade. And we have to think about that. We have to think what we can do about it, and how to, well, it's all about the environment, how to protect the environment. Soil moisture is a really big part of it. We talked about massive rainfalls. So we have the massive water which comes down in the winter time, or fall and winter time. It's too much to cope with. And what happens? We get floods.
Yeah. Or in the very least, you were talking also with me the other day, is that even if it's not as grandeur as a full flood, is that just pooling on sort of like undulating fields or whatever it might be, and you suddenly get certain areas that just become a quagmire. Well, that's no good to man nor beast.
Absolutely. You talk about surface ponding. That is, that is another really interesting topic. The soil is fully saturated, can't handle the water anymore, and the water is just you have a little pond in the middle of a field, and this little pond don't have to be little. It can be huge. It can be massive. Is it in crops? You damage the crops because they don't like to stand in water, apart from rice, of course. But it's an extreme. It's an extreme in both directions. And I think soil moisture monitoring is extremely important to see the trend, to see where we go and where we are in a couple of years or in 10, 20 years.
And that's the key one for me, is that not only you're talking about climate change, and you're absolutely right, and we're having to sort of accept that the two extremes are more extreme. Whether it's in spring that we're getting more floods because more rain is falling, and in the summer we get hotter temperatures with minimal rain that then suddenly desertifies or desertification in certain areas or whatever. And whilst we're obviously battling to limit that, to change that, to whatever, we've also got to be acutely aware of, if this is the new norm, and I know with the unfortunate pandemic, that's a key phrase, the new norm, but in terms of climate change, do we have new norms for areas of our world? And to be able to monitor it tells you what that new norm is going to be.
Yeah, that's it. But that's still a huge question mark, right?
It is.
We will see what comes up.
And before we disappear down a rabbit hole on that one, because that is a whole massive topic that we may cover with some experts in future episodes of this podcast and video show. Remember, by the way, you can either you're listening to us now on the podcast, and it's available on all the top podcast outcasts, and you could be walking your dog with your headphones in. Or you can be looking on our Van Walt YouTube channel, where you can actually be watching it, and you get to see Stefan and myself and whoever else I guess are on screen, including if we ever end up showing bits and pieces, you're able to see them on the video show. So catch up on those as well. It'll be great to see. And in fact, the podcast episodes, if you go to vanwalt.com, it's halfway down the homepage as well, and it will show you all the past episodes once they've been uploaded there as well. So check that one out. If we now get a bit more specific, Stefan, looking at the importance and reasons for soil moisture, I mean, everyone will have their, for want of a better word, favorite area that it's important for, but it's pretty vast.
Well, soil moisture is extremely important in all sorts of areas. If it's agriculture, if it's just for research reasons. Well, which brings us back to the topic climate change.
It all links back, doesn't it?
It's a big circle. So no, you have a lot of areas and a lot of fields where soil moisture plays an important role. One of them, of course, is agriculture. Our plants won't grow and won't be healthy without water. And another extreme important topic and area is we talked about archaeology, right?
Yes.
At the beginning of the year, it was all over the news. Soil moisture decrease, our cultural heritage gets damaged. The soil moisture decrease, and the oxygen finds its way to all the artifacts, and they start to rust. They start to decomposition, and they're gone.
Well, this one interests me a lot, because it was more to it than I understood. What you said, for example, is that if it's too much water, it can rust, it can whatever. But we, without going into too much detail for obvious reasons, but we had an example in London where they identified a shipwreck, as you do, such as the change, really historic shipwreck deep down in the soil. And it wasn't about there being too much water there. That was about the soil moisture being too low.
Exactly.
Because it will turn to dust.
Yeah, true. It dries out, and then it starts to corrode, and then in a couple of decades, nothing is left. And
Which I
now,
find staggering, and because that meant that they had to for that particular one, it was a really interesting one where they realized that they didn't have the technology at the moment to be
yeah,
able to excavate that
yeah,
particular shipwreck and preserve and everything. So actually, it's been sealed underground and monitoring and managing the moisture level so that it is being
exactly,
preserved with the belief that we will have the technology in the future to be able to excavate that history.
exactly. It's about the
How cool is that?
technology. It's fantastic. Well, it's nice that we have the ability to do that. It's about the technology to excavate it, and it's about the money. It's
Yes.
quite a big project what they do there. It's a huge ship, so
Mm.
to dig that out, well, that will take years, and we don't have the time at the moment to do that, or well, the institute don't have the time to do that at the moment. So they try to protect it. They measure soil moisture, they measure electrical conductivity in the water and in the soil. They measure water level around this area to protect it and to see where the trend is going.
Agreed, and that's what I love. So archaeology is a big one, and in fact, there's multiple areas. I mean, there was a big BBC article about, and people will know this one, Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah,
Between Scotland and England, or on, shall we say, on the Scottish border.
yeah,
Even these famous landmarks, they're at the mercy of soil moisture.
absolutely, absolutely. As I said, if there's so much to decrease, and it decreased already, we can see that all over the place and all over the world. It's not only a UK problem. This is a problem you can see in the United States. You can see it all over the world. And if there's so much to decrease further and further and further, all those artifacts and model remains dry out and they just disappear. So we will lose our cultural heritage if we don't do anything about it. A lot of teams from different universities, archaeological institutes work on solutions. As you said already, they monitor the soil moisture, they monitor the water level to keep it all together and to protect it, to give us a bit more time, to give us a pinch more time to excavate it, maybe in 20 years, 25 years, or however long it takes. But we can see what happens. We can see the trend. We can see, okay, what can we do about it?
Yeah. Agreed. So that's archaeology. You did touch on agriculture already, I know, and that one interests me. Is that it's not just about managing the status quo; it could also be about having the knowledge that certain agricultural setups need to change. So somewhere that's maybe doing one particular form of agriculture might need to change to something else because the soil moisture levels, for example, are different to what they used to be. But suddenly, what they did there can now be done over here because that's changed. And it's
Yeah,
about how knowledge is power.
exactly. Knowledge is power. The thing is, soil in Africa is completely different to soil in the United Kingdom, or to Germany, or to New Zealand, where we have a branch as well.
Mm.
Every continent, every country has a different composition of soil, and you need a bespoke solution for that. The most important thing is that we measure what is going on in the soil. So
Yep.
if we talk about soil redox or soil pH, and soil moisture is one of the most important factors when we talk about agriculture, of course. Um, you have to irrigate your fields. That is
And this
one
was the
thing.
key one I was going to come on to with you is that the irrigation situation over in New Zealand
Yeah,
has changed, and they need to know the soil moisture to know how much to irrigate it because it costs a
exactly.
lot more money now.
It costs money. Water costs money, and as I said, we in the UK, people think we don't have a water problem. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
It's not the case that we have enough water for everything and everybody when we handle the situation like we did in the last 25, 50 years. But New Zealand is a more specific topic. Water costs a lot of money, and you want to know
which is different, isn't it? Because it didn't used to be. They could just dump a pump in the rivers and streams and
Pump it out.
irrigate.
Yeah, yeah. And when you have to pay for water, of course, you want to know, well, which soil moisture content has my soil at the moment, instead of pumping more water in when it's not needed, because you have to pay for it,
Yes.
right? So if it comes to your wallet, you're getting cautious, and well, you shouldn't be only cautious because of your money. You should be cautious because of Mother Nature. That's another big thing.
It's both. Come on, let's.
A lot of people, you know that we are human. It is what it is.
Yeah, and incidentally, is talking about agriculture as well. Is it still relevant? You hear stories about, obviously they fertilize their crops.
Yep.
But if they don't know the soil moisture levels, they could be fertilizing and not realizing that it is high levels of moisture already, and so it's just pouring straight off the sides of their fields. Or is that only water level?
You mean that the water runs off, that the water is
because there's nowhere for it to go because it's already too high on moisture.
That is saturated.
Yes,
it's possible. Of course it is. Of course,
because they then need to know the levels to know how much and possibly what kind. I mean, I guess the point being is, even the uninitiated like me, is that you start digging deeper and you start going, wow, okay, this is big, this is big, this is big.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love the fact that you were explaining to me the other day that in terms of, let's just even say grass, if we move away from crops for a second, we just talk grass, is the roots will find, this is where measuring soil moisture is so critical, is that it's not just that, first 5 centimeters or whatever necessarily, it could be deeper, because the roots, what did you say, grass roots could go to what?
A meter.
Wow. And that's because they've gone, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking.
Yeah.
But if it keeps changing and they're down there, I mean, I know I'm like a murderer with my houseplants half the time, not because I don't water them, but by accidentally overwatering them.
Well, you know the office, we have exactly the same problem here. And to be honest, I don't want to stick a pico in every flower pot, otherwise.
But it just shows how vital it is, even with just grass.
Absolutely. No, let's go back to grass. It will find the water, well, at least to a zone where it can get the water. Yeah. And when it takes a meter to find the water for the roots, so then it's the root zone up to a meter. That is what it is. That's a fact why irrigation is so important. Yes. To take the stress of your plants.
Agreed. In terms of another couple of areas, and the next one is the soil health as well, and that sounds like it is just intrinsically linked to what we've already said, but there is a bit more to that side.
Yeah, that is true. As I said, soil all over the world is different, so you can't put it in one pot and find a, let's say, the average solution. That is not possible. You have all sorts of soil all over the world, and everything needs, every soil needs a special treatment, or a treatment which fits to the soil. You have different soil moisture averages all over the world. The soil moisture average is between 10 and 45, 41% ish, give or take.
Yeah.
But again, that depends on your soil. That depends on where you live. That depends on the weather. That depends on the irrigation. That depends on all sorts of things. And you have to look in each situation specifically to find a proper solution for the customer, or to find a proper solution for your environment.
Yep.
It's not that easy that you say, okay, that is my document, and it tells me, okay, soil moisture average between 10 and 45% all over the world. That's not true. That will never work.
And we have to accept is that soil is made up of so many different things and what have you. I loved, for those who don't know, at Van Walt HQ in the UK, just outside Hazelmere, we've got a field at the back where we've got a number of our sensors and things like that, all, as you can probably imagine, in situ and working, being used. And you and I took a wander when I was sort of on my onboarding phase, and went a little bit further than the immediate field, because you had a soil moisture in. And one of the things that's still stuck in my mind from when you were taking me through it is not only how clever this is that it goes down. And what did that go down? Was that 1 or 2 meters?
It was a meter and 50.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So a meter, yeah, because it was quite a long unit. But when you go down, and you were saying that you go down through and you drill and you pull out, you actually have to lay that section of soil out exactly as it is, because when you put it back in, every stage of that soil is different, and it needs to go back to where it was. So you can't just come out and just scoop it out into a pile and then ram it back in.
Exactly.
This is why the soil health is so important, is that it's so detailed just in a 1.5 meter section of it.
Absolutely. You have different soil horizons. Here in Hazelmere, let's say, you know our field. When it rains, it's muddy all over the place. It's a good example for surface ponding, because we have a couple, we have 20, 30, 40 centimeters of good soil, which gives a lot of, enough nutrition to the plants. And below that, we have clay, and that for meters. So that is it's strange to explain that, but you saw that live. And about what we talked when I showed you the Pico profile, the profile probe, which measures the soil moisture in a profile from 20 to 80 centimeters. In this case, the length of the pipe was 1.50 meters. We worked together with a consultancy on one project, and we drilled some wells with an hand auger. And this young lady wanted to see and wanted to analyze the soil horizon. So that means you auger your first 20 centimeter, your auger head is filled with soil. You bring it out, and as you already said, you put it all in a line. From the first 20 centimeter, the next 20 centimeters. So you build up your soil horizon on the surface, so you can see what is going on. And she analyzed it, she had a look, she took photos, and that was really interesting to see how much effort people put into that. And it's not only that she analyzed it, she can bring samples in her institute, can bring it into a laboratory, and can figure out the components of the soil. She can measure the soil moisture, which is depleted over time because it dries out, it evaporates. But you can do all sorts of things, and it was really important for me to see that the people are aware of how important soil moisture is. A lot of people underestimate soil. They walk every day all over it and take it for granted that it's there, but it's not. We have to be careful with it.
And that was the part that amazed me. Genuinely, it really has staggered me. So that we've really sort of gone on to soil research then. I don't think there's more that we can talk about on soil research than we've already done there, or is there?
Yeah, but when we jump in that rabbit hole, then we sit here until tonight.
Yeah, and that's the key thing with this. Everybody who's listening, we're trying not to go war and peace, and we're acutely aware that many of you listening or watching, on the actual research and the yields and irrigation, things like that, you're all the experts. What we're trying to do is provide the tools, the technology, to enable you to find out what you need to find out, to report what you want to report. It's just, as you can possibly tell from this podcast, we've kind of got a little bit passionate about this, and we love working with you all on it, and we love making sure that our portfolio of either designed and created tech ourselves or strategic partners. You mentioned one of our key partner on the soil moisture is
IMCO.
Yep.
IMCO in Germany.
I know, which helps you, doesn't it? But but I know that you're a big advocate of their tech, and I'm hopeful that we'll possibly get someone on from IMCO at some point as well. And
yeah, it would be nice. Would be nice to hook up Timo for that. He's a really nice guy, and he's so passionate about his job.
Even more than us.
Well, I would say yes. I would say he bleeds for it. So that is really nice to see that. Well, he's the technical advisor and gives us technical support all over the products. And when it comes to IMCO, he's the first guy. Well, of course, with Cornelius, his colleague and head of sales. They're on short call. So these both guys are yeah, the
They're
ones
great partners,
I give a
definitely.
call when it comes to soil moisture.
Yeah, exactly. Crop yield irrigation optimization, we've kind of covered that, but that's other areas that we can do. Hydrology studies. Now, this was interesting as well, whether that's flood forecasting or soil erosion research and landslides.
Yeah, that's we talked about floods already. Well, we cut it into this topic. The effect of heavy rain in the fall winter time is that we have a higher percentage of floods in the United Kingdom. Let's just talk about the United Kingdom. We have a higher percentage of floods, and you can use soil moisture to put it in a hydrogeological model to see the trend of the soil moisture, which gives you a good indication for flood forecasting.
Yeah, because and forgive me, I'm going to go layman's for a second for obvious reasons, but the forecasting side for me is that it's all too easy to, I don't know, let's say, for example, in this country, we are now we have to build more and more houses, as we know, and the easiest glib statement to make is that all that's left land-wise are the floodplains, and so more and more houses are being bought on floodplains. I do apologize, I've simplified that message, but you get my idea. And it's fine. As I said, the vogue thing is that you measure the groundwater levels and monitor those groundwater levels, and you have all these runoff water features, they make them, of these housing estates now, don't they? That you think, oh, isn't that lovely they've put that in there? Well, no, it's to manage the flood risk. But that is only one part of the equation. To know the soil moisture, for example, you said to me that if the water level's there, the soil will always be able to get that water up to other areas. But if that's already, let's go one direction, saturated well above the groundwater level, then actually it doesn't take much rise in that groundwater level to have bigger issues because it's got nowhere to go.
Absolutely, and that cause A, runoffs, and B, well, it increase your flood risk.
So, and I know that was layman's terms that I've done that, but that was me. That was me sort of thinking that's what I'm reading into the situation, and
that's absolutely perfect. And you're right. We put more and more concrete down in our beautiful country. The concrete will cause a problem that the water can't percolate into the soil, and you have runoffs. You create artificial runoffs, and that is another big topic to talk about.
Which, interestingly, I was having a conversation recently. It's just started. It'll go further about things such as subsidence and what have you of buildings, and people assume that it's an issue with the building itself, but it could be the soil underneath. And soil moisture levels is one of the things to be managing over there. And I was working with an insurance company that works with buildings that suffer with subsidence and things like that. So it's amazing. The knock-ons are so vast. It's incredible. But soil erosion and landslides, things like that, is that you might not be able to stop it necessarily, but it's important to, at the very least, know what could happen.
Yeah. I always talk about the trend. I use this word quite a lot for a specific reason. It's extremely important to see a trend. That means you can bring in measures to prevent. No, you can't prevent a landslide. Most you can, but most likely not. But you can bring measures in place to protect people, to protect your environment. You can You know what a landslide is. A landslide is nothing else than a slope which starts to get in a runoff. Because the soil is saturated. You have no plants who hold the soil together, so no vegetation. And to see the trend and to monitor the trend of soil moisture, to have hydrogeologists out there who pick their samples out of slopes to see what kind of soil is in there, what kind of rocks. It makes it easier for the Environment Agency, for companies like BGS to put a bigger picture together to save people.
And incidentally, we've been seeing, I mean, you and I have had a conversation back and forth going, why isn't soil moisture more mainstream? And it still does stagger me. It's not as mainstream as I'd expect, although we're seeing the picture possibly changing now. And that has included some of our customers, like environmental consultancies and the like, that are adding soil scientists to their teams and the soil moisture to their monitoring regimes.
Absolutely, the awareness grows. So the people are more aware of the situation, and the people understand even more and more why soil and soil moisture is so important. Soil scientists, you could find them. You can find them all over the place, and they do a perfect job to figure out what we could do better. But as you already said, consultancies bring soil moisture sensors into their repertoire of equipment for a specific reason. They hop the bandwagon. And why is soil moisture still not mainstream? That's a good question, but we're on our way to figure that out. We're on our way to break the band, to make it more. I don't want to say mainstream. Well, mainstream is possibly the right word. We want to make people aware how important soil moisture is.
Exactly right, and hopefully, you know, those people listening and watching to this have kind of seen that is what we're trying to do, and hopefully you can feel as well as hear the passion that we have in this, and the things that we can do, and the biggest thing I'd say is, like, have a conversation with us. Even if you're just in that kind of going, oh, maybe this is something we need to do, and you haven't done, or you're already starting to, or you are doing it and you want to make sure you're doing it the best way, have a conversation with us. Get in touch with Van Walt. It will probably end up being Stefan that you'll end up speaking to. But we, as I say, we do have the wider team, and we'll be able to see how we are able to help you and you know, make recommendations. And that might also include, no, don't do that there, for example. You're better off doing this here. And no, you don't need. We'll equally say you don't need something if that is appropriate. But either way, just have those conversations, which leads me on, Stefan, to almost like the final point here, really, that is interlinked, is the, so without going war and peace, but the sort of into some details of some of the products and methods that we have available.
Well, we talked already about IMCO, so our main supplier when it comes to soil moisture. We work with another company from Canada named Riot, and Stevens Water from Oregon in the United States, and they all use different measure principles, but what we most likely use is the TDR system from IMCO. I don't want to dive too deep into it. That's more when a customer asks me specifically. But the time domain reflectometry is one of the most accurate, ways to measure soil moisture and a trend of electrical conductivity in the soil.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm remembering again our conversation when we took a walk, is that probe goes down and it actually records it at different points. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is a profile probe. So that is nothing else than, let's say we talk about a meter, a meter probe, a probe which is a meter long, and each segment is 20 centimeter long, or 19 and some change.
Right.
And that is an individual sensor, but they all daisy chained or hooked to each other to build one long profile probe, which gets inserted in a special tube, in a tachyna tube, and is able to measure different or specific depth in your soil over the soil horizon or in a profile. Which is,
and these can be left in place.
Yes, exactly. They're for long-term monitoring. You can take them out. So let's just say you have an area of 7 acre-ish, let's say. You can bring into your soil several of these tachyna tubes. It's a special, some sort of a special installation system process you have to follow to get a really accurate reading. And you can swap your probes around. So you can get the probe out of this tachyna tube. You can insert it in the next tachyna tube to, well, let's say to monitor an average of your area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you able to get that data?
You get the data via our telemetry system, the Van Walt Data Hub, or in connection with the Van Walt Data Slave. You saw the example in our field right next to the border of our property. We hooked up a profile probe, which is right next to me. We hooked up the profile probe to a data slave with an external battery pack, since the profile probe is quite power consuming. So an external battery pack with a data slave makes absolutely sense. And this data slave pings the data to our data hub, which then uploads the data to our Van Walt Connect portal. And the customer has the opportunity to look into this data, download the data.
And graphs and everything can be created,
yes, exactly.
alarms if you wanted it, all those kind of things. Is it also available via, if you didn't go the telemetry route, are you able to download it or a handheld device or anything like that? Some of our tech does, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Pico profile probe should be on a logger, since you can, as you can use our data hub as a logger as well without the telemetry solution, so it doesn't ping data to our server, to the cloud-based server. It just stores the data in the unit, and you can run there with a USB stick, download the data, and bring it to your machine. But we have other probes in our product range. It's a Pico 64 for a good example. It's my favorite handheld probe. Why? It's extremely robust. It's extremely sturdy. It looks good. It's nice and blue. You have interchangeable probe rods. You can swap them for a shorter or for a longer one, available in 100, 160, and 200 mil length. You can use a Bluetooth readout, which clips to your belt, and you can see your data on your Android phone. You can log it, send it via a CSV file, or you can send a CSV file via email to your colleagues or to your own machine. You have the HD2, the handheld readout, which I showed you, the big block of aluminium, which is extremely robust. I think you could smack nails with it in the wall. It's massive, and that's why I like this equipment. It just doesn't look good. It is good, and it's highly reliable, and it's research grade. It's research grade equipment, and that's why we like that. It's the best of the best.
And that's the, again, we're not going to go into detail of everything and lose you, but it's just so that everybody knows there is an array of solutions available. Telemetry, of course, is the most popular way at the moment, which is why we've even introduced our new product, Van Walt KISS, that Soil Moisture doesn't deliver to. KISS is sort of like entry level telemetry, but the reason it's there and the reason why it's a big deal that the Soil Moisture can be delivered to our fantastic data hub that can take multiple inputs from all sorts. We could have rain sensors, groundwater sensors, as well as the soil moisture, all report into the data hub, coming through to your desktop or multiple people's desktops with graphs that could be showing it, alerts, everything. It's just so clever, everything it can do. And the big one for me there is that we're protecting our environment while monitoring it. i.e. we're not keep driving out to all the different points and driving around, which is kind of, to me, is like, well, why would we do that? We're trying to look after our environment. Telemetry is the way forward, and the soil moisture can be done.
that is always where we like to invite customer to show them our field, to show them the test rail, to show them what our telemetry system is able to do.
Yep, exactly. Well, anything else that you feel we should cover on soil moisture, Stefan?
Well, we had a good, I think, a good summary. Well, I would be delighted to bring Timo or Cornelius from INCO into our podcast at some point. That would be a really nice conversation with these guys.
Absolutely, and you know, as I've said before, these podcasts, these shows, is that the plan is to not just have us internally talking, but we're going to have various guests over time as well. So watch this space. Make sure if you're listening or you're watching it, subscribe as well, because it will then notify you when new episodes are up, and you'll be able to listen or watch or both of the above. You know, whether that's on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, Amazon, all of those things, you're able to listen and watch us. So, Stefan, thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me. And well, smash the bell so you don't miss it. Extremely important. Would be nice if we can reach out to a lot of people with our podcast, and well, to just spread the word.
Agreed. Exactly. That's our passion. That's our mission. So, Stefan, thank you very much for joining me. Everybody, thank you very much for listening, for watching. We'll see you next time. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next episode, which of course will be episode 4. I better make a decision on what that one's going to be about. See you soon. Cheers all.
Bye.
Van Walt is a bespoke team of individuals in 5 offices across 3 continents who design, source, install, supply, rent, and repair equipment for environmental research. For more than 40 years, we have developed our expertise and experience to bring you best-in-class equipment for soil water and groundwater monitoring and research. Listening to your needs, using our experience and expertise to offer solutions that help you meet your objectives each and every time. Developing the equipment you need to protect the world's resources for future generations. Van Walt, monitoring your needs.